I'm Alara Quinn, 28 years old, and I never thought my own parents would treat me like this. One evening, we were having dinner at home in Missoula, Montana, when they said something that felt like a big slap in my heart. They told me, "You are not part of this family anymore. Don't come back." My heart beat super fast, and I froze with my fork in the air. My mom's eyes were cold, my dad's face didn't show anything, and my brother just smirked. Before I could say anything, they got up, pointed at the door, and I stumbled out into the dark night. The door locked behind me. I still had the key in my hand, but it didn't matter anymore. I pounded on the door and shouted, but nobody answered. My whole world felt like it had broken. I didn't understand why they were doing this. I went to a cheap hotel, my mind spinning, trying to figure out why. Maybe it was because I didn't want to work in the family business, or maybe because I wanted to follow my dream of writing movies. A week later, my phone buzzed. It was an email from their lawyer. It said, "We have a problem. Call immediately." My stomach sank. A week ago, they threw me out, saying I wasn't family anymore. And now they wanted my help. I stared at the screen and gave a bitter smile. Share your story in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe to see what happens next. I grew up in Missoula, Montana, under the shadow of the Hart family name. My mom, Vivian Hart, ran our family's event business like a strict general. She planned weddings, parties, and work events, and she loved it more than anything. Every dinner at home was about her work, client lists, party plans, or money. My dad, Marcus Hart, handled the money. He mostly just nodded at Mom's orders and didn't say much. My older brother, Dorian, was the golden child. Mom always praised him. Me, I was different. I loved writing stories and screenplays instead of doing numbers or planning events. Mom would often say, "You need a real job." Dorian would laugh at me. "Keep dreaming, Claire, but don't expect a paycheck." Even Dad would quietly say, "The business is what keeps us afloat." Their words hurt, but I kept writing. I wanted to be a screenwriter. The only person who really understood me was my grandma, Eleanor Quinn. She wasn't like the rest of my family. She'd sit with me on her porch, her hands wrinkled but steady, and teach me how to make my stories better. "Your stories matter, Claire," she would say, her eyes warm and full of belief. We would spend hours talking about old movies, studying every line, and writing notes on my scripts together. She would always tell me, "Keep going no matter what anyone says." Those moments made me feel seen and loved. Grandma Eleanor passed away 2 years ago, and her absence left a hole in my heart. But my parents and Dorian never stopped pressuring me. The business was everything to them. When I was a kid, I would help at their events, carrying tablecloths and setting up chairs. But secretly, I would write scenes in my notebook. Mom caught me once and said, "You're not here to play, Alara. This is our future." I was 12 years old. When I got older, in my 20s, I moved out to follow my dream in Missoula's small film world. But after my first screenplay got rejected, I had to come back home. The looks on my family's faces said it all. I was a failure. Living at home felt like walking on eggshells. Mom pushed me to join the family business, saying, "You could be great at this, Claire." Dorian would say, "She'll mess it up, Mom. Stick to what we know." Dad just drank his coffee, staying quiet. I tried to keep writing. I would lock myself in my room and type late at night. But the sounds of my parents' voices echoed through the walls: client calls, event plans, Dorian's smirks. I had to hide my scripts. Only Grandma Eleanor's words kept me going. She had left me her old typewriter, and I treasured it. I would run my fingers over the keys and remember her lessons. A good story needs heart. Don't let anyone take that from you. But heart wasn't enough when Mom's expectations were so strong. She would barge into my room, throwing stacks of event proposals on my desk. "Read these. Learn something useful," she said. I would nod, but my mind was elsewhere, thinking about the stories I wanted to finish. Dorian's teasing got worse. "Still writing your little movies?" he'd say, leaning in the doorway. "Grow up, Alara." I started to doubt myself. Maybe they were right. Maybe my dream was just a childish fantasy. But every time I closed my eyes, I could see Grandma Eleanor's face and hear her voice telling me to fight. She believed in me, and that belief was the only thing keeping me together. Back at home, the pressure was constant. Mom wanted me in the family business more than anything. "This is your chance to prove yourself," she said, pushing a stack of client proposals across the kitchen table. The Hart Events Company was her empire, and she wanted me to be part of it. I would sit through meetings, writing down notes about weddings or corporate parties, but my mind drifted to my own stories. At night, I would lock my door and type, dreaming about freedom and making movies. I sent my scripts to small studios in Missoula, hoping someone would give me a chance. But every rejection email felt like a punch in the chest. Mom's voice kept echoing in my head. This isn't a game, Alara. You need to grow up. Dorian was no better. He would lean into my room, look at my laptop screen, and say, "Still playing screenwriter? You're wasting everyone's time." He loved the business, charming clients, and getting Mom's approval. To him, my dreams were a joke. Dad, as usual, stayed quiet, staring at his coffee cup during tense dinners. But his silence meant he agreed with Mom. "Just try it, Claire," Dad said once, barely looking up. "The business is steady." Steady. That word felt like a chain around me. But I kept writing anyway, staying up past midnight, refining my stories, imagining my name on a movie poster. Last spring, I got a small job at a tiny studio in Missoula, helping with a low-budget film. It wasn't much, but it was my first step. I spent days on set, learning everything I could, and during breaks, I worked on my own scripts. But 3 months ago, the studio lost funding, and the project fell apart. My job ended. My savings disappeared, and my confidence sank. With nowhere else to go, I packed my things and moved back home. The moment I walked in, Mom's expectations hit me like a big wave. "You tried your little hobby," she said coldly. "Now it's time to join us for real." She gave me a company laptop filled with spreadsheets. I wanted to scream that I wasn't giving up, but I needed a roof over my head, so I nodded. Dorian wasn't kind either. "Back already," he said. "Guess your Hollywood dreams didn't work out." His words hurt, but I refused to show it. Every day at home was a battle. Mom dragged me to client meetings, introducing me as the new planner, while I hid my notebook full of story ideas in my bag. I would overhear Dorian boasting about big events he had booked. Dad nodded along, never questioning, never defending me. Even when I tried to talk about my writing, they dismissed me. "This isn't a career," Mom would say. "Focus on the business." Dorian would roll his eyes. "You'll never make it, Claire. Just face it." But I remembered Grandma Eleanor and her words about heart and courage. That kept me going. Some nights, I would cry quietly in my room, typing with trembling hands, pouring my sadness into my stories. I imagined a life where I could chase my dreams without fear or judgment. I pictured my name on a movie poster, smiling faces in the audience, and finally feeling proud of myself. That vision made me keep going, even when my family's words hurt like arrows. Then came the dinner that changed everything. They kicked me out, saying I wasn't family anymore. I wandered into the cold night, feeling lost and scared. I had no idea what to do or where to go. My heart ached, but deep down I knew I couldn't give up on my dreams. A week later, the lawyer's email came, asking me to help. Suddenly, the people who had hurt me were asking for me. I stared at the screen, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. My parents, who had rejected me, now needed me. It was strange and unfair, but it also gave me power. I realized that I didn't have to follow their rules anymore. I could choose my own path, just like Grandma Eleanor had always told me. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt at home. Hope. Hope that my stories mattered. I hoped that my dreams weren't childish fantasies. I hoped that one day, I could show them that I could succeed on my own terms. At home, I ran to my room, trying to get away from everything. I needed a place where no one could bother me. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I began writing stories. I wrote about a woman who wanted to be free from her strict and controlling family. Every page I wrote made her stronger, braver, and louder. I felt like I was her, living through her courage. Writing made me feel safe, but things at home were still very hard. Mom started scheduling me for one event after another. I barely had time to eat, let alone write. "You're not doing enough," she snapped when I missed something. Her eyes were sharp and angry, like she was always disappointed in me. Dorian, my older brother, didn't make things easier. He would sit there smirking, throwing little insults at me. "Maybe if you tried harder, you'd actually do something useful," he said, and then he would laugh. I kept quiet, but inside I was screaming. I wanted to fight back, but I was afraid of making things worse. I secretly called a friend who worked in the movie business, asking if there were any opportunities for me. But every time I got the same answer: no. I felt like my dreams were slipping further and further away. My parents didn't support me, Dorian laughed at me, and I felt completely alone. One night, I sat at my desk staring at my newest script. I had written a scene where the heroine of my story stood up to her family. She was brave. Her voice was strong and clear. I wanted to be her. I wanted to feel brave and strong. But I didn't feel it. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. I knew something had to change. Then came the dinner that would change everything. I sat at the dining table with Mom, Dad, and Dorian, who was smirking at me. The air felt heavy, and the only sound was the clinking of forks. Mom spoke first. "Alara, we need to talk about your future," she said sharply. I knew exactly what she meant. She would tell me again to join the family's event business. I had heard it 100 times. But this time I was done being quiet. "I'm not giving up my screenwriting," I said. My voice was steady, even though my stomach felt like it was tied in knots. "It's what I love." Mom's eyes narrowed. "Love doesn't pay the bills, Alara. Our family worked hard to build this business. You're throwing it all away for a silly dream." I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. "It's not a silly dream. I'm good at this. I've been sending my scripts, getting feedback, learning, and growing." Dorian laughed, trying to make me feel small. "Feedback? You mean rejection letters? Face it, Alara. You're not cut out for this." His words hurt, but I spoke anyway. "At least I'm trying, Dorian. You just follow Mom's orders like a robot." Dad, who had been quiet all along, finally spoke. His voice was low, but it cut through the tension. "That's enough, Alara. You're embarrassing yourself." I looked at him, desperate. "Dad, you know I've been working hard. Why won't you support me?" He didn't answer. He looked away, his jaw tight. Mom stood up, scraping her chair on the floor. "This is your home, Alara, but only if you do what we say. If you choose this nonsense over us, you're out." I froze. My heart was pounding. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. Mom's face was cold. "You are not part of this family anymore. Get out." Dorian crossed his arms and smirked. Dad just stared at his plate. I got up, my legs trembling, and grabbed my bag. "You can't mean that," I said. But Mom pointed firmly to the door. I stumbled outside into the cold night. The air hit my face, sharp and freezing. The door locked behind me. I banged on it, shouting, "Mom, Dad, open the door." Nothing. My key didn't work. They had changed the locks. I ended up at a cheap hotel nearby. My mind was spinning. How could they do this? I tried calling Mom, Dad, and Dorian. No one answered. I sent texts, but they were ignored. I sat on the stiff hotel bed, opening my bank app to see what I had left. My savings account, the one I shared with Dorian for emergencies, was empty. $1,000 gone. I called the bank, my hands shaking. "It was withdrawn yesterday," the clerk said calmly. "By Shah Hart, your brother." I stared at the phone, my chest tightening. Dorian had always been mean, but this was worse. He had stolen all my money. I tried calling him again and left a voicemail. "Why, Dorian? That was my money." No answer. I thought about Grandma Eleanor, who had always told me to keep fighting no matter what. But right now I felt like I had lost everything. My home, my family, my savings all gone. I curled up on the stiff hotel bed with my laptop, the only thing I had left. I wasn't going to give up, but I didn't know how to keep going. A week later, my phone buzzed. I was still in that cheap hotel, my life packed into a suitcase, and my savings gone. The email was from Silas Vaughn, the lawyer who worked for Grandma Eleanor. The subject line made my heart leap. Eleanor Quinn, Trust. I opened it, my hands shaking. It said, "You are entitled to assets under a trust set up by Eleanor Quinn. Please contact me immediately." I hadn't heard about any trust before. My hands shook as I dialed Silas's number. "Claire," he said, calm but serious. "Your grandmother set up a trust for you before she passed away. It guarantees that you can stay in the family home and gives money for your screenwriting career." I nearly dropped the phone. My home, which Mom and Dad had just locked me out of, and money for my writing. "There's more," Silas said. "Eleanor left a letter for you. I'll send it with the trust documents." The next day, the documents arrived at the hotel. There was a thick envelope full of legal papers and a letter from Grandma Eleanor in her familiar, beautiful handwriting. I opened it carefully. My eyes filled with tears as I read. "My dearest Claire," it began. "I've always known your heart belongs to your stories. This trust is to protect you from people who don't understand your dreams. They may try to control you, but you are stronger than their doubts. The house is yours and the money is for your writing. Don't let anyone take that from you." I held the letter tightly. Grandma Eleanor had known this would happen. Mom's strictness, Dad's silence, Dorian's tricks. She had planned to protect me. The trust had enough money to pay for my living expenses and support my writing for years. There was even a rule that I could stay in the family home no matter what Mom or Dad said. I called Silas again, my voice steadier now. "What do we do next?" He explained that we would have a meeting to make sure the trust rules were followed. He warned that it could be messy. Mom, Dad, and Dorian might fight it. I felt nervous. Could I really face them? The next day, the meeting room felt like a battlefield. I sat across from Mom, Dad, and Dorian. Their faces looked proud but worried. Silas Vaughn, the lawyer, stood at the front with papers ready. I held Grandma Eleanor's letter in my hands for courage. This meeting is about the Eleanor Quinn Trust and how it has been handled, Silas said. Mom's eyes narrowed. Handled badly? That's not true. Dorian leaned back, trying to look confident, but I could see he was nervous. Dad didn't say anything. Silas didn't flinch. The trust was made to make sure Claire has the family home and money for her writing, he said, pushing a paper toward them. But $150,000 was taken without Claire's permission and used to improve Hard Events Company. Dorian scoffed. That's a lie. The company needed it. His voice shook. I looked at him angry. You took my savings too, Dorian. $1,000 gone. And now this. Dorian stayed silent. Silas continued showing the bank records. These transactions were done by Vivian and Shaw Hart, approved by Marcus Hart. I could feel my anger and fear mixed together. But at the same time I felt something else. Hope. Grandma Eleanor had prepared this for me. She had made sure I had a way to stand up to my family. I took a deep breath and held the letter tighter. I'm not giving up my home, I said quietly but firmly. And I'm not giving up my dreams. Mom's face turned red. Dorian looked guilty. Dad looked down at his hands. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had power. Silas leaned forward. The trust is clear. Claire has the right to the house and the funds for her screenwriting. Any further attempts to block her access will be challenged legally. I swallowed hard. It wouldn't be easy, but finally, I had a way forward. I could keep my dreams alive. I could write. I could stay in my home. And I would never let anyone take that from me. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. I wasn't alone. Grandma Eleanor had given me the courage to fight, and I would. The trust said clearly that no one could use its money for themselves. Mom's face turned bright red. She looked angry and hurt at the same time. We worked so hard to build the company from nothing. Claire doesn't deserve any money if she isn't helping, she said. Her words cut into me like little knives, but I decided I wouldn't cry or feel weak anymore. I took a deep breath and held my head high. Helping! I shouted. You locked me out of my own home, Mom. Grandma Eleanor wanted me to have it. Dad spoke quietly, trying to calm things down. We thought we were doing what was best for the family, he said. I shook my head. No, Dad. You did what was best for you. Silas, our family lawyer, put some papers on the table. Look, he said. These are emails, financial statements, and receipts. They show the family spent the trust's money on new office stuff and marketing for the company. They knew about the trust and ignored it. Every paper I looked at made me feel sad and angry at the same time. I had trusted them, but they had betrayed me. This is wrong, Silas said firmly. Claire should get the house, the money, and also be paid back for what was taken from her. Dorian, my brother, slammed his hand on the table. You're not taking anything, Claire. You're a failure. You'll just waste it on your stupid scripts. I felt a fire inside me. His yelling didn't scare me. If anything, it made me stronger. I looked at all of them with steady eyes. I'm done with this family. I want the apartment in Missoula like the trust says. I'll take Grandma Eleanor's money for my writing, and that's it. Mom gasped. You can't just walk away. I held her gaze. You walked away first when you locked me out. Silas nodded, writing notes carefully. Claire's choice follows the trust's rules. The apartment can be transferred to her name. The money will go into her account. You will also face an audit for the $150,000 you used. Repayment may be required. Dorian stopped smirking, Mom's face went pale, and Dad just looked sad. He folded his hands tightly and didn't say a word. I felt a mix of victory and sadness. Grandma Eleanor's trust had helped me, but facing my family this way hurt a lot. You could have helped me, I said, my voice shaking. Instead, you stole from me. Mom opened her mouth, but I raised my hand. No, I'm done listening. I'm taking what's mine and leaving. Silas handed me a pen to sign the preliminary papers. He looked calm, but I could tell he was happy for me. As I signed, I remembered Grandma Eleanor's words. You are stronger than their doubts. She had known my family would try to hurt me, but she gave me a way to fight back. The apartment would be my new start. A place to write without Mom yelling or Dorian mocking me. The money would let me pitch my scripts and maybe even make a short movie someday. I looked at Mom, Dad, and Dorian one last time. Their silence said everything. They had lost control. Walking out of that room, I felt lighter, but a part of me hurt. I had lost my family. I didn't want apologies or excuses. I just wanted freedom. 2 weeks later, the papers were signed. Silas called to confirm that the Eleanor Quinn Trust had finished giving me the Missoula apartment. Mom, Dad, and Dorian had no choice but to agree. Backed into a corner by the trust's rules, their signatures felt like giving up. I knew they had tried to fight, but Grandma Eleanor had won. Silas's voice was calm. The trust's funds covered the apartment. The remaining money is yours for screenwriting. Your family cannot control the trust anymore. I stood in the apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows. The keys were in my hand. It was a small one-bedroom place. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. No more hotels, no more locked doors. I set my laptop on the kitchen counter and imagined late nights writing scripts. Stories about women who rebuilt their lives. I felt free. I could write without fear. But the victory was also sad. I had won, but it had come at the cost of my family. Hard Events Company, our family business, was falling apart. Silas had warned them that the audit for the $150,000 would be strict. News traveled fast in Missoula. Clients pulled out, worried about the company. A local newspaper ran a story hinting at money problems. I didn't read past the headline. I didn't need to. The company's reputation was falling, and with it, Mom's pride and Dorian's arrogance. Dad stayed quiet, probably hiding in paperwork to avoid the mess. I blocked their phone numbers that same week. Mom tried texting once, a short message about sorting things out. I deleted it without reading. Dorian left a voicemail, his voice full of anger. "You think you're better than us, Claire? Good luck on your own." I erased it, my hand steady. Dad didn't reach out at all. His silence hurt more than anger or yelling ever could. I didn't want their apologies. I didn't want their anger. Grandma Eleanor had given me a way out, and I was taking it. I settled into the apartment slowly. I bought a second-hand desk, a cheap lamp, and a few plants. I wanted the place to feel alive. Every morning, I sat by the window with coffee, typing scenes for a new script. The words flowed easier now, free from the weight of my family's judgment. I sent pitches to small studios, and a producer in Bozeman emailed me. They liked my idea for a short film. It wasn't Hollywood, but it was a start. Sometimes I look at Grandma Eleanor's letter tucked into a drawer. "You are stronger than their doubts." I would trace the ink and remember her warm smile. She had believed in me even when my family didn't. She knew Mom would try to control me, Dorian would try to tear me down, and Dad might stand by quietly. She built a safety net for me, and I was finally free to use it. But freedom came with a shadow. Late at night, when the apartment was quiet, I felt the ache of losing my family. Not the family they had become, but the one I had hoped for. A family where Mom might have cheered for my scripts, Dad might have spoken up, and Dorian might have been a real brother. I pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the future. The trust's funds gave me breathing room. I could write, pitch scripts, and maybe even produce a small film. I wasn't rich, but I had enough to start building my dreams. A month later, I got a call from Silas. The audit was moving forward, and my family might have to pay hefty fines. I thanked him calmly. Their downfall wasn't my goal, but it was the consequence of their choices. I hung up, opened my laptop, and started typing. The story wasn't finished yet, not mine, not the one on my screen. But for the first time, I knew I could write my own ending. Months passed. The Missoula apartment became my sanctuary. Its walls were filled with notes for my latest script. I poured everything into my writing, and it started paying off. I got an email from the Missoula Film Collective. My script, a drama about a woman breaking free from her past, was selected for their talent development program. I stared at the screen. My heart raced. This was real. A chance to work with professionals, refine my craft, and maybe see my story on screen. The program started at a local theater. I met Jasper Cole, a young director with a sharp eye for characters, and Lyra Bennett, a producer who could spot potential. "Your script has heart," Jasper told me over coffee after our first workshop. "It's raw but honest." Lyra nodded, her eyes bright. "We need voices like yours, Claire. Keep pushing." Their words felt like life rafts. I was finally in a community that valued my work. We met regularly, shared ideas, gave feedback, and planned projects together. A few weeks later, the program director called me. "Claire, we're inviting you to pitch your script to a panel of producers at the Northwest Film Forum," she said. My stomach flipped. A pitch to real producers. I spent days preparing, rehearsing in front of my bathroom mirror, thinking of Grandma Eleanor's words. "You are enough." The day came. I stood in a small conference room in Seattle and shared my story. Producers leaned forward, asked questions, and took notes. One woman with sharp glasses smiled. "This could be something special. Let's talk about the next steps." I walked out feeling like I could fly. Back in Missoula, Jasper and Lyra became my anchors. Jasper dragged me to late-night diners, sketching shot lists on napkins and debating character arcs. Lyra helped me navigate the business side, finding local filmmakers and teaching me how to budget a short film. Weekends were full of brainstorming, laughter, and dreaming. They weren't just colleagues, they were my chosen family. With them, I didn't have to prove myself. They saw me, not my failures. Sometimes I thought about my old family. Hard Events Company lost more clients. Mom might regret her words. Dad might wish he had spoken up. Dorian's social media went quiet. But I didn't reach out. Freedom meant letting go, and I was learning to embrace it. The talent development program pushed me to grow. I rewrote my script, deepening the characters and making the dialogue sharper. Jasper offered to direct a short version, and Lyra secured a small grant to fund it. We shot in Missoula using local actors and real locations by the river. Watching my words come to life on set, I felt a surge of pride. The short film got accepted to a regional festival. We celebrated with cheap wine in my apartment, toasting to new beginnings. Through it all, I kept remembering Grandma Eleanor's lesson. My value didn't come from others' approval. It came from inside, from the stories I told, the work I did, and the people I chose to keep close. Jasper and Lyra reminded me every day. I wasn't running from my past anymore. I was building something new. Standing on my apartment balcony, watching the sunset over the Clark Fork River, I felt whole. My story wasn't finished yet, but for the first time, I knew I was writing it on my own terms.